My name is Regina Hayes, and I'm 69 years old. I raised my daughter Brielle by myself after her father died in a car accident when she was just 18 months old. I worked as a nurse for 47 years, taking every available overtime shift and holiday assignment to make sure Brielle had everything she needed: dance lessons, art supplies, a college education, and the kind of stable, loving home every child deserves. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for sitting in my living room last Saturday afternoon, watching my daughter's wedding happen without me through a live stream on my laptop, when suddenly the officiant mentioned one name that made the entire ceremony come to a screeching halt. I was sitting on my couch in my modest apartment, tears streaming down my face as I watched Brielle walk down the aisle on the arm of her future father-in-law. I wasn't there. I hadn't been invited. My own daughter had gotten married without me present, and I was watching it happen on a computer screen like a stranger. The ceremony was beautiful, white roses everywhere, a string quartet playing, 150 guests in an elegant garden venue. Brielle looked stunning in her lace wedding gown. Her groom Taylor looked handsome and nervous. Everything was perfect. Except I wasn't there. I watched through blurry eyes as the officiant began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Brielle Hayes and Taylor Morrison. He continued with the traditional words. The vows were about to be exchanged. I was witnessing my daughter's wedding from 800 miles away, uninvited and unwanted. Then the officiant said something that was apparently part of the ceremony Brielle had planned. Before we continue, I'd like to acknowledge the people who made this day possible. Taylor's parents, James and Patricia Morrison, who raised their son with such love and care. Everyone applauded. The camera panned to show Taylor's parents in the front row, beaming with pride. And Brielle's mother, Regina Hayes, who raised her daughter as a single parent and gave her every opportunity in life. The applause started, but then it stopped, abruptly, because the camera was scanning the front rows, looking for me to acknowledge me, and I wasn't there. The seat where I should have been sitting, the seat reserved for the mother of the bride, was empty. The officiant looked confused. He glanced at his notes, then at Brielle. "Is Regina Hayes here today?" Brielle's face went white. The guests started murmuring. People were looking around, confused about why the mother of the bride wasn't present. She couldn't make it," Brielle said, her voice barely audible through the live stream. "I see," the officiant said, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, we acknowledge her in absentia and thank her for raising such a wonderful young woman." But the damage was done. The awkwardness hung in the air. Guests were whispering. Taylor's family looked confused, and Brielle looked like she wanted to disappear. Because someone, probably Taylor's parents, who'd helped plan the ceremony, had added that acknowledgement without telling Brielle. They'd assumed I'd be there. They'd assumed that, of course, a mother would be present at her own daughter's wedding. They had no idea I'd been deliberately excluded. And now, 150 guests at that wedding were wondering the same thing I'd been wondering for 6 months. Why wasn't the mother of the bride at her own daughter's wedding? But before I tell you why I wasn't invited, before I reveal what led to my daughter getting married without me there, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button, because this story is about to show you how family secrets can tear people apart and how one unexpected moment can force the truth into the light. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear what happened after my name was mentioned at that wedding and everything started to unravel. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today, because what happened after that ceremony, after the secret of my absence became public, it changed everything. It exposed truths that had been hidden, and it forced my daughter to face what she'd done. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my relationship with Brielle and how we went from being incredibly close to her getting married without me. To understand what happened, you need to understand my relationship with Brielle and how things changed in the 2 years before her wedding. My husband Jonathan died when Brielle was 18 months old. A drunk driver hit his car. He died instantly. I was 25 years old, suddenly a widow with a baby to raise alone. I was devastated, lost, terrified. But I had Brielle and she needed me to be strong. I worked as a nurse. Night shifts mostly, because they paid better. I'd work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., come home exhausted, sleep for a few hours while a babysitter watched Brielle, then wake up to spend the afternoon with my daughter before going back to work. It was exhausting, but it was what needed to be done. Brielle needed stability, security, love, and I was going to give her all three, even if it meant working myself to the bone. As Brielle grew up, we were close, very close. It was just the two of us against the world. I went to every dance recital. She loved ballet. I helped with every school project. I was there for every milestone, every achievement, every moment that mattered. Brielle was a good kid, sweet, thoughtful, creative. She loved art and spent hours drawing and painting. I'd frame her artwork and hang it all over our apartment. She said it made her feel like a real artist. When she was in high school, she told me she wanted to go to art school. "Mom, I want to be a professional artist. I want to create things that make people feel something." "Then that's what you'll do. We'll find a way to make it happen." I took on even more shifts. I worked holidays, weekends, overnight doubles. Whatever it took to save money for Brielle's art school tuition. She got some scholarships, but they didn't cover everything. I made up the difference. Brielle went to a prestigious art school in another state. It was hard being so far from her, but I was proud. My daughter was pursuing her dreams. She graduated 4 years later with a degree in fine arts. She moved to a city with a thriving art scene and got a job at a gallery while working on her own art. She was doing exactly what she'd always wanted to do. We stayed close even though we lived far apart. We'd video chat several times a week. She'd send me photos of her new paintings. I'd tell her about work, about my neighbors, about the small details of my life. "Mom, I miss you," she'd say. "I wish you could visit more often." "I know, honey, but plane tickets are expensive and I'm saving for retirement. We'll see each other soon." When Brielle was 26, she met Taylor. He was a financial analyst from a wealthy family. His parents owned a successful investment firm. They had money, real money, the kind of money I'd never had. "Mom, I think I'm in love," Brielle told me on one of our video calls. "Taylor is amazing. He's smart, kind, successful, and he loves my art. He actually understands what I'm trying to express." "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. When do I get to meet him?" "Soon. Maybe you could come visit. I'd love for you to meet him in person." I looked at my savings account. Plane tickets to where Brielle lived cost $400 round trip. That was a lot of money on a nurse's retirement budget. I'd just retired after 47 years. "I'll try to make it work, maybe in a few months." But a few months turned into 6 months. I kept trying to save enough for the plane ticket, but unexpected expenses kept coming up. A car repair, a medical bill, a broken water heater. Every time I got close to having enough saved, something would happen. Finally, a year after Brielle started dating Taylor, I managed to save enough. I bought a plane ticket and flew out to visit. When I met Taylor, he seemed nice enough. Polite, well-dressed, a bit formal but friendly. We had dinner at an expensive restaurant. Taylor insisted on paying. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Hayes," Taylor said. "Brielle talks about you constantly." "Please call me Regina, and it's wonderful to meet you too." During dinner, I noticed that Taylor seemed a bit uncomfortable. He'd glance at my clothes, simple, off the rack, not expensive. He'd pause when I'd mention my work as a nurse, like he wasn't sure how to respond. He was polite, but there was a distance there. After dinner, when Taylor had left and it was just Brielle and me, I asked, "Does Taylor know about our background, that we didn't have much money growing up?" "Of course he knows. I've told him everything." "He seems a little, I don't know, maybe uncomfortable." "Mom, that's just how he is. He's from a very formal family. They're not used to being casual, but he likes you. He told me so." I wasn't entirely convinced, but I let it go. Brielle was happy. That was what mattered. Over the next year, as Brielle and Taylor's relationship got more serious, I noticed Brielle changing. Subtle changes at first. She'd mention expensive restaurants she'd been to, designer clothes she'd bought, vacations to places I couldn't afford to visit. Taylor took me to Paris for my birthday, she told me on a video call. Paris, that's incredible, honey. It was amazing. We stayed in this beautiful hotel, ate at Michelin-star restaurants, visited all the museums. Mom, I saw real Monets and Renoirs and Van Goghs in person. It was like a dream. I was happy for her, but I also felt the growing distance between our worlds. She was living a life I couldn't relate to, a life of wealth and luxury and experiences I'd never have. When Taylor proposed, Brielle called me immediately. Mom, Taylor proposed, we're getting married. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Congratulations. Thank you, I'm so excited. We're thinking about having the wedding next summer. Oh, Mom, it's going to be beautiful. I can't wait. Tell me all about your plans. Over the next few months, Brielle would occasionally mention wedding planning. The venue they'd chosen, an exclusive garden estate. The photographer, someone who charged $5,000 for a wedding. The dress, a designer gown that cost more than I made in a month. Brielle, this wedding sounds very expensive. Are you and Taylor paying for it yourselves? Taylor's parents are paying for most of it. They insist. They want their son to have a perfect wedding. That's generous of them. What can I contribute? I don't have much, but I'd like to help somehow. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Mom, don't worry about it. Taylor's parents have it covered. But I'm your mother. I should contribute something to your wedding. Honestly, Mom, they have very specific ideas about how everything should be. It's easier if they just handle it, but I appreciate the offer. I felt stung, like I was being told my contribution wasn't needed or wanted. Okay, but Brielle, I do want to be involved somehow. This is your wedding. I'm your mother. I want to be part of the planning. Of course, Mom. I'll keep you updated on everything. But she didn't. Over the next 6 months, I'd hear about wedding plans only occasionally. Always after decisions had been made. Always in a way that made it clear I hadn't been consulted. We picked the flowers, white roses and peonies. We booked the band. They're supposed to be amazing. We finalized the menu, a 5-course dinner. Everything was we, meaning Brielle, Taylor, and Taylor's parents. I was never part of the we. 4 months before the wedding, I asked, Brielle, when is the bridal shower? I'd like to help plan it. Oh, Taylor's mom already planned one. It was last weekend. Last weekend. You didn't tell me about it. It was kind of last minute. And Mom, it was here in the city. I knew you couldn't afford to fly out for a shower and then again for the wedding. I didn't want to burden you. You should have let me decide if I could make it work. Brielle, I'm your mother. I should have been at your bridal shower. I'm sorry. I thought I was being considerate of your financial situation. But it didn't feel considerate. It felt like I was being excluded because I was poor, because I couldn't afford to fly out for every event, because I didn't fit into her new wealthy world. 3 months before the wedding, I called to ask about my role in the ceremony. Honey, what would you like me to do at the wedding? I know traditionally the mother of the bride helps with greeting guests, or maybe gives a toast. What were you thinking? Another pause. Mom, about that. Taylor's family has very specific traditions, and they've kind of taken over the planning. I'm not sure there's a specific role for you beyond, being there. Being there, that's it. Brielle, I'm your mother. I know, and of course you'll be honored as my mother. You'll sit in the front row, you'll be recognized. But Mom, Taylor's parents are paying for everything. They feel like they should have some say in how things are done. And they don't want me to have a role. It's not that they don't want you to have a role. It's just, their vision for the wedding is very specific, and having too many people involved complicates things. I felt hurt, dismissed, like I was an inconvenience rather than an important part of my daughter's life. 2 months before the wedding, I received the formal invitation. It was beautiful, expensive cardstock with gold embossing, but when I opened it and read it, I felt sick. Mr. and Mrs. James Morrison request the honor of your presence at the marriage of Brielle Hayes to their son Taylor Morrison. My name wasn't on it. The invitation listed Taylor's parents as the hosts. Brielle was mentioned, but not as daughter of Regina Hayes, just Brielle Hayes. I'd been erased from my own daughter's wedding invitation. I called Brielle immediately. I got the invitation. My name isn't on it. Mom, that's just the formal wording. Taylor's parents are hosting. I don't care who's hosting. I'm your mother. My name should be somewhere on this invitation. It's just tradition. The hosts are listed. No, Brielle. Tradition is that both sets of parents are listed, even if they're not hosting, even if they're not paying. Parents are acknowledged on wedding invitations, but I'm not. Why? Silence. Brielle, answer me. Why was I left off the invitation? Because Taylor's parents said it would be confusing. Since you're not contributing financially and you're not involved in the planning, they thought it would be simpler to just list them as hosts. Simpler. It would be simpler to pretend I don't exist. That's not what they meant. That's exactly what they meant. Brielle, do you understand how hurtful this is? I raised you alone. I worked night shifts for years to give you everything you needed. I paid for your art school. And now I'm being erased from your wedding because I'm not rich enough to contribute to Taylor's parents' expensive vision. Mom, please don't make this a big deal. It's just an invitation. It's not just an invitation. It's a symbol of how you see me, how Taylor's family sees me. I'm not good enough. I'm not wealthy enough, so I'm being erased. Nobody's erasing you. You're being oversensitive. Am I? Then tell me, Brielle, honestly, do Taylor's parents want me at this wedding? Another long silence. Brielle, answer me. They think it might be awkward. Awkward how? Because you don't fit in with their world. Because you can't afford nice clothes or expensive gifts. Because you're different from their friends and family. The words cut deep, so they don't want me there. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Brielle, your future in-laws don't want me at your wedding because I'm not rich, and you're going along with it. What am I supposed to do? They're paying for everything. I can't tell them how to run the wedding they're funding. You could stand up for me. You could insist that your mother, the woman who raised you alone, who sacrificed everything for you, deserves to be at your wedding regardless of what they want. Mom, it's more complicated than that. It's not complicated at all. Either you want me there or you don't. Which is it? Of course I want you there. But I also want my wedding day to be smooth and drama-free. And if your presence makes Taylor's parents uncomfortable, then yes, it complicates things. My presence makes them uncomfortable. Let me get this straight. I'm such an embarrassment that having me at your wedding would ruin it. I didn't say you're an embarrassment. But that's what you mean. I'm poor, I don't fit in, I'll make people uncomfortable, so it's better if I just, stay home. Mom, please. Maybe I will stay home. Maybe it's better if I don't attend a wedding where I'm not wanted. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you're coming to the wedding. Am I invited? Officially? Or am I just expected to show up and sit quietly in a corner and pretend I'm not being disrespected? You're my mother. Of course you're invited. But Taylor's parents don't want me there. You said it yourself. They'll deal with it. It's one day. They can handle having you there for one day. The way she said it, like my presence was something to be handled, something they'd have to deal with, it broke my heart. I need to think about this, I said. I need to decide if I want to attend a wedding where I'm clearly not welcome. Mom, don't do this. Don't make this about you. This is about me. This is about you choosing Taylor's wealthy family over your own mother. This is about you being ashamed of where you came from. I'm not ashamed. Yes, you are. You're ashamed that I'm not rich. You're ashamed that I couldn't afford to give you the fancy upbringing Taylor had. You're ashamed of me. That's not fair. It's completely fair. Brielle, I gave you everything I had. Everything. And now you're treating me like I'm an embarrassment because I'm not wealthy. How is that fair? I have to go, Brielle said, her voice cold. We'll talk about this later when you're calmer. She hung up, And I sat there, crying, realizing that my relationship with my daughter had broken. That her new life, her wealthy fiancé, his wealthy family, her new wealthy world, had pushed me out. Over the next month, Brielle and I barely spoke. She'd text occasionally with wedding updates, but they were brief and impersonal. She didn't call. She didn't video chat. It was like she was avoiding me. 1 month before the wedding, I received a phone call from Patricia Morrison, Taylor's mother. Regina, hello. I wanted to reach out to discuss something delicate regarding the wedding. What is it? Brielle has shared with me that there's been some tension between you two, about the wedding planning, about your role, and I wanted to address it directly. I'm listening. Regina, I understand this is difficult for you. Having your daughter marry into a family that's very different from yours. But I need you to understand something. This wedding represents our family, our values, our standards, and we've invested a significant amount of money to make sure everything is perfect. I'm aware. Given that, we need to be honest with you. We're concerned that your presence at the wedding might be disruptive. Disruptive how? You don't understand our world. You don't know how to behave in high society settings. And frankly, we're worried that you'll say or do something inappropriate that will embarrass Brielle and Taylor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I'm going to embarrass them? We think there's a risk, and we'd rather not take that risk on such an important day. So, what are you suggesting? That I don't attend my own daughter's wedding? That's exactly what I'm suggesting. Regina, we're willing to compensate you for this inconvenience. We'll pay for you to take a nice vacation that same weekend. Somewhere you've always wanted to go. Our treat. But we'd prefer if you weren't at the wedding. You're offering to pay me to not attend my daughter's wedding. We're offering to make this easier for everyone, including you. You won't have to travel. You won't have to buy an expensive dress. You won't have to feel uncomfortable around people who are, well, frankly, out of your league. This way, everyone wins. Everyone except me. I don't get to see my daughter get married. Regina, let's be realistic. You'll feel out of place. You'll be surrounded by wealthy people wearing designer clothes, eating expensive food, discussing things you know nothing about. You'll be miserable. We're actually doing you a favor. A favor? You're doing me a favor by excluding me from my daughter's wedding. Yes, and we're being very generous about it. The vacation package we're offering is worth $5,000. That's more than you'd spend attending the wedding anyway. I don't want your money. I want to be at my daughter's wedding. That's not going to work for us. Regina, please be reasonable. This wedding is about Brielle and Taylor. It's about their future. And that future is with our family, not with yours. It's time you accepted that. Does Brielle know you're calling me? Does she know you're trying to bribe me to skip her wedding? Brielle knows we're handling a delicate situation. She trusts us to do what's best. And you think what's best is for her mother to not be at her wedding? Yes, that's exactly what we think. And if I refuse, if I show up anyway, then we'll be forced to have security remove you. Regina, I don't want it to come to that, but this is our event. We're paying for it, and we have the right to control who attends. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I hung up, shaking with rage and heartbreak. Taylor's mother had just told me I wasn't welcome at my own daughter's wedding, and she'd threatened to have me removed by security if I showed up. I called Brielle immediately. Did you know your future mother-in-law just called me? What? No, what did she say? She told me I'm not welcome at your wedding, that I'll be disruptive, that I'm out of my league, that I should stay home and let them pay for a vacation instead. Did you know she was going to call me? Silence. Brielle, did you know? I knew she was going to talk to you, but I didn't know exactly what she'd say. You knew. You knew they were trying to get me to not attend, and you didn't stop them. Mom, it's complicated. It's not complicated. Either you want me at your wedding or you don't. Which is it? I want my wedding day to be perfect. I want everything to go smoothly. And yes, having you there makes that more complicated. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. So you don't want me there? I didn't say that. You just said my presence complicates your perfect day. That's the same thing as not wanting me there. Mom, please try to understand. This is the biggest day of my life. And I'm your mother. I should be part of the biggest day of your life. But you can't afford to be. You can't afford the dress, the travel, the gift. Everything about this wedding costs money you don't have. And having you there, dressed in cheap clothes, standing next to people in designer gowns, giving a toast about our tiny apartment and your night shifts, it ruins the image we're trying to create. The image, that's what this is about. The image of a perfect, wealthy wedding, and I don't fit that image. You don't. I'm sorry, but you don't. And I can't have you there ruining it. The words hung in the air. My daughter had just told me she didn't want me at her wedding, that I would ruin it. Then I won't come, I said quietly. If my presence is that much of a problem, I'll stay home. Mom. No, you've made yourself clear. I'm not welcome. I'm an embarrassment. I'm too poor to fit into your new life, so I'll stay away. I'll watch the live stream if there is one, but I won't ruin your perfect day with my presence. Mom, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Goodbye, Brielle. I hung up, and I cried for hours. My daughter didn't want me at her wedding, after everything I'd sacrificed, after everything I'd given her. She was choosing her new wealthy family over me. 2 weeks before the wedding, I received an email from Brielle. It contained a link to a live stream. Mom, I'm sorry for how things happened. I do want you to be part of my day, even if you can't be there in person. Here's the link to watch the ceremony live. I love you. So that's how I ended up sitting on my couch last Saturday, watching my daughter's wedding on my laptop, crying as I watched her marry the man she loved without me there. Until the officiant mentioned my name, until he tried to acknowledge me, until 150 guests realized I wasn't there. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After my name was mentioned at the ceremony, and the awkward silence fell over the wedding, I watched through my laptop screen as the officiant tried to recover. Well, let's continue with the ceremony, he said, clearing his throat uncomfortably. But the damage was done. I could see guests whispering to each other. I could see Taylor's parents looking tense. And I could see Brielle fighting back tears, her perfect wedding day suddenly tainted by the public acknowledgement of my absence. The ceremony continued. Vows were exchanged. Rings were given. Brielle and Taylor were pronounced husband and wife. They kissed. Everyone applauded. But the energy had shifted. The perfection was cracked, because everyone was now wondering, where was the mother of the bride? I closed my laptop after the ceremony ended. I couldn't watch the reception, couldn't watch Brielle dance with Taylor, couldn't watch her celebrate without me. I sat in my apartment, alone, wondering if I'd made the right choice. Should I have fought harder to be there? Should I have shown up anyway, despite being told I wasn't welcome? Or had I done the right thing by stepping back and letting Brielle have her day without the complication of my presence? I didn't have answers. I just had heartbreak. An hour later, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Regina, this is Patricia Morrison, Taylor's mother. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to say to each other. Oh, I think we do. Because your little stunt, having the officiant mention you in the ceremony, has caused quite a problem. My stunt? I didn't do anything. I wasn't even there, remember? You made sure of that. Don't play innocent. You clearly told the officiant to acknowledge you. You wanted to make Brielle uncomfortable. You wanted to ruin her day. I didn't tell the officiant anything. I haven't spoken to anyone involved in the wedding except Brielle. If he mentioned me, it's because someone else, probably you or your husband, included mothers in the ceremony script without realizing I wasn't going to be there. There was silence on the other end. Then Patricia said, regardless of how it happened, it's caused an issue. Guests are asking questions. They're asking why you weren't there. They're wondering if there's family drama. It's making us look bad. Making you look bad? Patricia, you're the ones who told me not to come. You're the ones who said I'd be disruptive. This is your problem, not mine. You need to fix this. You need to tell people there was a good reason you weren't there. A medical emergency, a travel issue, something that makes it clear this wasn't about you being excluded. But it was about me being excluded. That's exactly what this was about, and I'm not going to lie to protect you. Regina, if you don't cooperate, I'll make sure Brielle knows you're being difficult, that you're trying to cause problems. Brielle already knows the truth. She knows I wasn't invited because you thought I was an embarrassment. She knows you offered to pay me to stay away. She knows everything. Then why didn't she tell people that? Why did she let the officiant mention you as if you were supposed to be there? Maybe because deep down, she knows it was wrong. Maybe she's ashamed of what she did. Or maybe, and this is the most likely explanation, your husband included mothers in the ceremony script without consulting her, and she didn't realize it would be mentioned until it happened. Patricia was quiet for a moment. My husband did write that part. He thought it was traditional to acknowledge both sets of parents. So this isn't my fault. It's yours. You excluded me but didn't think through all the ways that exclusion would become obvious during the ceremony. Regardless, we need to control the narrative. People are talking. They're speculating. Some guests have already asked Brielle directly why you weren't there. What did she tell them? She said you couldn't make it due to financial constraints, that the travel was too expensive. That's a lie. I could have afforded the travel. I was willing to max out a credit card if necessary to be at my daughter's wedding. I wasn't there because I wasn't welcome. Well, that's the story we're going with, and you need to back it up if anyone contacts you. I'm not lying for you, Patricia. If people ask me why I wasn't at my daughter's wedding, I'll tell them the truth. That I was excluded because I wasn't wealthy enough to fit into your world. That you tried to bribe me to stay away. That Brielle chose to prioritize your comfort over having her mother present. If you do that, you'll destroy your relationship with Brielle forever. She'll never forgive you for making her look bad. I think Brielle already destroyed our relationship when she told me I'd ruin her perfect day. I'm just living with the consequences of her choice. Patricia's voice turned cold. You're making a mistake, a very big mistake. If you don't cooperate, you'll regret it. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Cross us, and you'll lose your daughter completely. We have the money and influence to make sure you never see Brielle again. Think about that before you decide to tell your version of the story. She hung up, and I sat there, shaking, realizing that Taylor's family wasn't just wealthy, they were powerful. And they were willing to use that power to control the narrative and shut me out permanently. But I wasn't going to be bullied. I wasn't going to lie to protect people who'd treated me so cruelly. 2 hours after Patricia's call, my phone rang again. This time it was Brielle. Mom, what did you say to Patricia? She called me. I didn't initiate contact. She said you're refusing to cooperate, that you're going to tell people you were deliberately excluded from the wedding. That's the truth, Brielle. I was deliberately excluded. But you can't tell people that. It makes me look terrible. You should have thought about that before you excluded me. Mom, please, people are already asking questions. The wedding was supposed to be perfect, and now there's all this awkwardness about you not being there. Can't you just say you couldn't make it? That it was about money or travel logistics? You want me to lie to protect your reputation. I want you to help me salvage my wedding day. Is that so much to ask? Yes, actually, it is. Brielle, you told me I'd ruin your perfect day. You let Taylor's parents bully me. You chose their comfort over my presence. And now you want me to lie about it so you don't look bad? No, I won't do that. So you're going to make me look like a terrible daughter. I don't have to make you look like anything. Your actions speak for themselves. You excluded your mother from your wedding. That's what happened. And if people think poorly of you for that, maybe you deserve it. I can't believe you're being so selfish. This is my wedding, my special day, and you're ruining it. I'm not ruining anything. I wasn't even there, remember? You made sure of that. You know what I mean. You're causing drama by not going along with the story. The story is a lie, and I won't be part of it. Fine, then don't expect to be part of my life either. If you're going to make things difficult, if you're going to embarrass me in front of my new family, then I don't want anything to do with you. Brielle. I mean it, Mom. Choose. Either you back up the story that you couldn't attend due to logistics, or we're done. Completely done. You're giving me an ultimatum. Lie for you or lose you. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. What's it going to be? I thought about everything I'd sacrificed for her. The years of night shifts, the exhaustion, the second-hand clothes I wore so she could have new ones, the vacations I never took so she could go to art school, the life I'd built around making sure she had every opportunity. And now she was asking me to lie, to pretend I hadn't been excluded, to protect her reputation at the cost of my dignity. I choose the truth, I said quietly. I'm sorry, Brielle, but I won't lie about what happened. If that means losing you, then I guess I've already lost you anyway. Then we're done. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't try to contact me. You're not my mother anymore. She hung up, and I sat there, stunned, realizing my daughter had just disowned me. For the next 3 days, I heard nothing from Brielle, but I did hear from other people. My sister called. Regina, I just heard about Brielle's wedding. Is it true you weren't there? It's true. Why, what happened? I told her everything. About Taylor's wealthy family, about being excluded, about Patricia's bribe and threat, about Brielle's ultimatum. That's terrible. Regina, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I don't know. Brielle says we're done, that she doesn't want anything to do with me. She's angry and embarrassed. She'll come around eventually. I'm not sure she will. She's chosen her new life, her new family, and there's no room for me in it. My old coworker Janet called. Regina, I saw something on social media. Brielle got married, and you weren't there. That's right. What happened? I told her the story. By the end, Janet was furious. After everything you did for that girl, working yourself to exhaustion, paying for her fancy art school, and this is how she repays you, by excluding you from her wedding. She's made her choice. I have to accept it. You don't have to accept anything. Regina, you're a good person, a good mother, and Brielle should be ashamed of herself. Over the next few days, word spread. Friends, former coworkers, people from my church, everyone was asking about the wedding, about why I wasn't there. And I told them the truth. Every time. I didn't embellish. I didn't make myself look like a victim. I just stated the facts. I was excluded because Taylor's family didn't think I was wealthy enough to fit in, and Brielle had gone along with it. People were shocked, horrified. Many of them reached out to Brielle on social media, asking for an explanation. Brielle's response: she blocked me on all social media platforms. She blocked my phone number. She cut me off completely. 1 week after the wedding, I got a letter in the mail from Taylor's parents' lawyer. It was a cease and desist letter. It accused me of defamation and slander for spreading false and malicious rumors about the Morrison family. It demanded that I stop telling people I'd been excluded from the wedding and threatened legal action if I didn't comply. I took the letter to a lawyer friend from church. Can they do this? I asked. Can they sue me for telling the truth? They can try, but truth is an absolute defense against defamation. If what you're saying is true, and it sounds like it is, then they don't have a case. This letter is just an intimidation tactic. They're trying to scare you into silence. What should I do? Ignore it. Keep telling the truth if people ask. And if they actually file a lawsuit, we'll fight it. But I doubt they will. People like the Morrisons don't want their dirty laundry aired in court. They're just hoping you'll back down. I didn't back down. When people asked, I continued to tell the truth, and word continued to spread. 2 weeks after the wedding, Brielle's art gallery posted on social media about her recent marriage. The post included wedding photos, beautiful photos of Brielle and Taylor, the venue, the decorations. But the comments section exploded. People were asking where the mother of the bride was. Some people who knew me personally were commenting about how I'd been excluded. Others were expressing shock and disappointment that an artist who claimed to value authenticity would exclude her own mother from her wedding. The gallery ended up deleting the post, but screenshots had already been shared widely. 3 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from Rose, not Rose Montgomery from the previous story, but a different Rose. Rose Hendricks, a journalist who wrote for a lifestyle magazine. Regina, I heard about what happened at your daughter's wedding. I'd like to write an article about it, about how wealthy families sometimes exclude people who don't meet their standards. Would you be willing to talk to me? I don't know. I don't want to hurt Brielle more than I already have. With respect, Regina, you haven't hurt Brielle. She hurt you, and stories like yours need to be told. People need to understand that this kind of class-based exclusion happens, that families are torn apart because of money and status. I thought about it. If I do this interview, it will make things worse between Brielle and me. They're already as bad as they can get. She's disowned you. She's blocked you. She's threatened you with lawyers. How much worse can it get? She had a point. Okay, I said. I'll do the interview. The article came out 2 weeks later. It was titled, "The Mother Who Wasn't Invited, When Wealth Divides Families." Rose had written it sensitively. She'd included my story, the years of working night shifts, the sacrifices, the art school tuition, the gradual exclusion as Brielle entered Taylor's wealthy world. She'd included quotes from me about how it felt to watch my daughter's wedding on a live stream, about being told I'd ruin the perfect day, about being threatened and given ultimatums. The article went viral. Within days, it had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. News outlets were picking it up. Social media was exploding with discussions about class, family obligations, and whether Brielle had been right to exclude me. Most people sided with me. They expressed sympathy and outrage on my behalf. They called Brielle ungrateful. They criticized Taylor's family for their snobbery. But some people defended Brielle. They said it was her wedding and she had the right to invite whoever she wanted. They said I was playing the victim. They said I should have been more understanding of her desire for a perfect day. The attention was overwhelming. I was getting friend requests on social media from strangers. Reporters were calling. People were sending me messages of support. And Brielle, she was getting backlash, lots of it. Her social media accounts were flooded with critical comments. Her art gallery was getting bad reviews. People who'd bought her artwork were saying they regretted supporting such an ungrateful daughter. 4 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Regina Hayes. Yes. This is James Morrison, Taylor's father. We need to meet, in person. There are things we need to discuss. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, this is important. It's about Brielle. She's not doing well, and I think you need to know what's been happening since the wedding. Something in his tone made me agree. Okay, where and when? We met the next day at a coffee shop halfway between our cities. James Morrison was a tall, distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit, but he looked tired, stressed. Thank you for meeting me, he said as we sat down. What's this about? It's about the wedding, about what happened, about what my wife and I did. He took a deep breath. Regina, I need to apologize. What we did to you, excluding you, bribing you, threatening you, it was wrong, deeply wrong. I was stunned. Why are you telling me this now? Because the fallout from that article has been severe. Not just for Brielle, but for our family. Our business has been affected. We've lost clients who don't want to be associated with the kind of people who'd exclude a mother from her daughter's wedding. Our reputation has taken a hit. And Brielle is falling apart. What do you mean? She's been having panic attacks, anxiety. She can't sleep. She's getting hate mail. People are confronting her in public. The art gallery let her go because they said her presence was causing problems with customers. She and Taylor are fighting constantly. Everything is falling apart. I felt a pang of concern despite everything. Is she okay? No, she's not okay. And Regina, I'm partly responsible for that. I pushed for your exclusion. I convinced Brielle that having you there would be a problem. I made her feel like she had to choose between you and fitting into our world, and I was wrong. Why did you do it? James looked down at his coffee. Because I'm a snob. Because I've spent so many years building wealth and status that I forgot what actually matters. Because I looked at you, a nurse who worked night shifts and wore simple clothes, and I judged you as beneath us. And I didn't want you at my son's wedding because I was embarrassed by your presence. At least you're being honest. I'm being honest because I've spent the last month watching the consequences of my actions, watching my son's marriage suffer, watching Brielle's spiral, watching our family's reputation crumble, and realizing that all of this happened because I valued appearances over people. What do you want from me, James? I want you to forgive Brielle. She's suffering. She's being punished publicly for a choice that I pushed her to make, and she needs her mother. She told me she doesn't want anything to do with me. She disowned me. She was scared, angry, defensive, but Regina, I've talked to her, and underneath all that anger is guilt, terrible guilt. She knows what she did was wrong, she knows she hurt you, but she doesn't know how to fix it. So you're here to fix it for her? No, I'm here to tell you the truth, to take responsibility for my part in this disaster, and to ask you, beg you to give Brielle another chance, to talk to her, to let her apologize. Does Brielle know you're here? No, if she knew, she'd be furious. She's too proud to admit she needs help, too ashamed to reach out to you. But I'm her father-in-law, and I can see what this is doing to her. She needs to make peace with you before it destroys her completely. I thought about everything that had happened. The exclusion, the lies, the ultimatum, the disowning, all of it hurt so much. But underneath all that hurt was still love. Brielle was still my daughter, the girl I'd raised, the girl I'd sacrificed everything for. I'll think about it, I said finally. Thank you, that's all I can ask. James stood up to leave, then paused. Regina, I meant what I said. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better than how we treated you, and I hope someday you can forgive us. After he left, I sat in that coffee shop for a long time, thinking about what to do. Part of me wanted to stay away, to let Brielle live with the consequences of her choices, to protect myself from being hurt again. But another part of me, the mother part, wanted to reach out, to help my daughter who was clearly suffering, to try to rebuild what had been broken. I didn't know which part would win, but I knew that whatever I decided, it would change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 days after meeting with James Morrison, I was still wrestling with what to do when I received an unexpected package in the mail. It was a large envelope with no return address. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. Regina, you need to see this. It's security camera footage from the wedding reception. After you watch it, you'll understand everything. The footage starts at the moment when everything fell apart. A friend. I stared at the note, confused. Security camera footage? Who would send me this? And why? I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. There was one video file, time-stamped from the day of the wedding. The footage showed the wedding reception. I could see Brielle and Taylor at the head table, surrounded by guests. Everyone looked happy, celebrating. Then the scene changed. The timestamp showed about 2 hours into the reception. A woman I didn't recognize approached Brielle and Taylor's table. She looked to be in her 50s, elegantly dressed. I turned up the volume on my laptop to hear what was being said. Brielle, congratulations on your wedding. Everything is absolutely beautiful, the woman said. Thank you so much, Brielle replied with that perfect smile. I did want to ask you something, though. I noticed during the ceremony that the officiant mentioned your mother, Regina, but I didn't see her anywhere. Is she here? Brielle's smile faltered. She couldn't make it. Oh, that's such a shame. I hope everything is all right. Is she ill? No, she's fine. It was just travel difficulties. The woman looked confused. Travel difficulties? But surely for your own daughter's wedding, she'd find a way. Where does she live? About 800 miles away. Well, that's not so far. I flew in from California, and that's further than that. Did something happen with her flight? Brielle looked uncomfortable. It's complicated. Complicated how? Patricia Morrison suddenly appeared beside Brielle. Mrs. Chen, how lovely to see you. Can I get you some champagne? But the woman, Mrs. Chen, wasn't deterred. Patricia, I was just asking about Brielle's mother. It seems odd that she wouldn't be here for such an important day. As Brielle said, there were travel complications. Now, let me introduce you to some of our other guests. What kind of travel complications? Mrs. Chen pressed. Because I have to say, Patricia, it's very unusual for a mother to miss her daughter's wedding, unless there's more to the story. Patricia's smile became strained. There's nothing more to the story. Regina simply couldn't attend. Couldn't or wasn't invited. The question hung in the air. Brielle looked like she wanted to disappear. Patricia's face hardened. I don't appreciate what you're insinuating, Margaret. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm asking a direct question. Was Regina Hayes invited to this wedding? Taylor spoke up for the first time. Mrs. Chen, my mother-in-law's absence is a private family matter. A private family matter that you made public by having the officiant acknowledge her during the ceremony. If she wasn't going to be here, why mention her at all? Why create that awkward moment? James Morrison joined the group. Margaret, perhaps we could discuss this later. I don't think so, James. I've known you and Patricia for 20 years. I've watched you build your business, your reputation, your social standing. And I've also watched you become increasingly concerned with appearances over substance. So I'm going to ask one more time. Was Regina Hayes invited to her own daughter's wedding? The silence was deafening. Guests at nearby tables were starting to pay attention. Finally, Patricia said coldly, Regina was informed that her presence would be difficult given the nature of this event. Difficult how? Margaret, I really don't think this is appropriate. Answer the question. How would her presence be difficult? Because she doesn't fit into our world. Because she's a retired nurse who lives in a modest apartment and wears clothes from discount stores. Because having her here, surrounded by our friends and business associates, would have been embarrassing. There, are you satisfied? The words echoed across the reception. Conversations stopped. People turned to stare. Brielle looked horrified. So you excluded her, Mrs. Chen said quietly. You excluded your future daughter-in-law's mother because she wasn't wealthy enough for you. We did what was necessary to maintain the appropriate atmosphere for this event. The appropriate atmosphere. Patricia, do you hear yourself? You excluded a woman who raised her daughter alone, who worked night shifts to pay for that daughter's education, who sacrificed everything so her child could have opportunities, and you excluded her because she didn't meet your standards of wealth and status. Our standards exist for a reason. Your standards are disgusting. And Brielle, how could you let this happen? How could you allow your future in-laws to exclude your own mother? Brielle's voice was barely audible. I thought it was the right thing to do. The right thing? Brielle, I've been following your art career. I own 3 of your paintings. Beautiful pieces about family, sacrifice, love, resilience. And I always assumed those pieces were inspired by your mother. By watching her work herself to the bone to give you a good life. Was I wrong? Tears were streaming down Brielle's face now. No, you weren't wrong. My mother inspired all of it. Then how could you exclude her from today? How could you create art celebrating her sacrifice and then tell her she's not good enough to attend your wedding? I don't know. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to fit in. I wanted Taylor's family to accept me, and they said having my mother here would complicate things. So you chose them over her. Yes, I chose them over her, and I was wrong. I was so wrong. Brielle was sobbing now. Taylor put his arm around her, but she pushed him away. Mrs. Chen looked at Patricia with disgust. You should be ashamed of yourself. You've destroyed a mother-daughter relationship for the sake of appearances. You've taught your new daughter-in-law that love and loyalty matter less than wealth and status. And you've proven that all your money can't buy you class or decency. She turned to Brielle. And you, dear girl, you have a lot of growing up to do. Your mother gave you everything, and you repaid her by excluding her from the most important day of your life. I hope you can find a way to make this right. because if you don't, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Mrs. Chen walked away. The reception fell into an uncomfortable silence. Then, slowly, other guests started leaving. Within an hour, more than half the guests had departed. The video showed Brielle sitting at the head table, crying inconsolably. Taylor trying to comfort her. Patricia and James arguing quietly but intensely in a corner. The celebration completely derailed. The footage ended. I sat there, stunned, finally understanding what had happened at the reception after the ceremony. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered it. "Regina, this is Margaret Chen. I'm the woman from the video you just watched." "How did you know I'd watched it?" "Because I'm the one who sent it to you. I thought you deserved to know what happened after you weren't there." "Why? Why would you do that for me? You don't even know me." "You're right, I don't know you personally. But I know of you, from Brielle's art. She's talked about you in interviews over the years, about how you inspired her work, about your strength and sacrifice. I own several of her pieces, and every one of them is beautiful because they capture the essence of maternal love and sacrifice." I didn't know she talked about me in interviews. She did, often, with great pride and love, which is why I was so shocked to discover you weren't at her wedding, and when I found out why, I was furious. The video showed you confronting Patricia and Brielle. Yes, and Regina, I want you to know what I said wasn't just anger talking. It was the truth. What they did to you was inexcusable, and Brielle knows it. I spoke with her after the reception. She's devastated by what happened. James Morrison told me she's been struggling. That's an understatement. Regina, your daughter is having a complete breakdown. The guilt is eating her alive. She can't paint anymore. She can't focus. She can't function. All she can think about is what she did to you. Then why hasn't she reached out to me? Pride, shame, fear, all the usual reasons people don't apologize when they should. But Regina, I'm calling to tell you something important. Brielle wants to see you. She's too afraid to ask, but she desperately wants to talk to you, to apologize, to try to make things right. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I understand, but I'm going to tell you something that might change your mind. 2 days ago, Brielle tried to hurt herself. My heart stopped. What? She took pills, not enough to kill herself, thankfully. Taylor found her in time and got her to the hospital. She's physically okay, but emotionally she's in a very dark place. She's been admitted to a psychiatric facility for evaluation and treatment. Oh my God, Brielle, my baby. She needs you, Regina. I know she hurt you. I know she doesn't deserve your forgiveness, but she's your daughter and she's suffering. Please at least consider going to see her. Where is she? Pinewood Mental Health Center, about an hour from where you live. I can give you the details. After Margaret gave me the information and hung up, I sat there shaking. My daughter had tried to hurt herself. The guilt and shame had driven her to that point. Despite everything, the exclusion, the lies, the disowning, she was still my daughter, and she needed me. I grabbed my car keys and drove to Pinewood. When I arrived, I told the front desk I was there to see Brielle Hayes Morrison. Are you family? The receptionist asked. I'm her mother. Please wait here. I'll check if she's allowed visitors. 10 minutes later, a doctor came out. Mrs. Hayes, I'm Dr. Samuel Chen. I'm treating your daughter. Chen, are you related to Margaret Chen? She's my wife. She told me she'd spoken with you. That's actually why I'm here. We need to talk before you see Brielle. We went to a private office. Dr. Chen explained Brielle's condition. Your daughter is experiencing severe depression and anxiety, primarily driven by guilt. She's convinced that what she did to you is unforgivable, that she's a terrible person who doesn't deserve to live. We've started her on medication and therapy, but Regina, what she needs most is to hear from you. What should I say to her? That's up to you, but I will tell you this. Brielle needs to know whether there's any possibility of reconciliation. Right now, she believes she's destroyed your relationship permanently. That belief is contributing to her suicidal ideation. If there's any chance you can forgive her, any chance you can rebuild your relationship, she needs to know that. It might give her something to hold on to. And if I can't forgive her, then we'll work with that. But Regina, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen a lot of families torn apart by far worse things than what happened here. What Brielle did was wrong. Very wrong. But it wasn't evil. It was weak. Misguided. The result of poor judgment and bad influence. Those things can be forgiven if you choose to. I need to think about what I'll say to her. Take your time, but not too much time. She's been asking for you since she woke up after the overdose. Your name is the first thing she says every morning. She's desperate to see you. Dr. Chen led me to Brielle's room. I'll give you privacy. Take as long as you need. He opened the door, and I saw my daughter. She was sitting on a bed, wearing hospital clothes, looking small and fragile and broken. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked nothing like the radiant bride I'd watched on the Livestream. When she saw me, she gasped, "Mom." "Hi, baby." "You came. You actually came, I thought. I thought you'd never want to see me again." I walked over and sat in the chair beside her bed. "I heard you were here. I had to come." "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. For excluding you from the wedding. For choosing Taylor's family over you. For being ashamed of you. For telling you that you'd ruin my perfect day. For disowning you. For all of it. I'm sorry." She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "I know you're sorry, Brielle. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. I just needed you to know that I regret it. That I regret every single choice I made that led to you not being at my wedding. That I'd give anything, to go back and do it differently." "What would you do differently?" "I'd tell Patricia and James no. I'd tell them that my mother was going to be at my wedding, and if they had a problem with that, they could stay home. I'd insist on you being involved in the planning. I'd make sure you were honored properly during the ceremony. I'd have you sit in the front row where you belonged. I'd acknowledge you in my vows. I'd dance with you at the reception. I'd make sure everyone knew that you were the most important person in my life." "But you didn't do any of those things." "No, I didn't, because I was weak. Because I let Taylor's family make me feel like you weren't good enough. Because I wanted to fit into their world so badly that I abandoned everything you taught me about loyalty and integrity and love. Mom, I became someone I hate. Someone who values money and status over the people who actually matter, and I don't know how to live with that." "Is that why you took the pills?" "I took the pills because I couldn't stand myself anymore. Because every time I looked in the mirror, I saw someone who'd betrayed the person she loved most in the world. Someone who'd excluded her own mother from her wedding. Someone who'd chosen appearances over love. And I couldn't stand seeing that person anymore." "Brielle, listen to me. What you did was wrong. Very wrong. You hurt me more than I can express. But you're not a terrible person. You're a person who made terrible choices under pressure from people who had bad values. That doesn't make you irredeemable." "How can you say that, after everything I did to you?" "Because I'm your mother, and mothers don't give up on their children, even when their children hurt them." "But I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Maybe not, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Not because you've earned it, but because I love you, because you're my daughter, and because I can see that you genuinely regret what happened." Brielle looked at me with hope and disbelief. "You forgive me, really?" "I'm working on it. I'm not going to lie, I'm still hurt. I'm still angry. It's going to take time for me to fully trust you again. But yes, eventually I can forgive you." Thank you so much. I don't deserve it, but thank you." "There are conditions, though." "Anything, I'll do anything." "First, you need to get healthy. You need to stay here and do the work to address your depression and anxiety. You need to figure out why you were so willing to abandon your values to fit in with Taylor's family." "I will, I promise." "Second, you need to make real changes. You can't go back to letting Patricia and James control your life. You need to set boundaries. You need to stand up for yourself and for me. Can you do that?" "Yes, absolutely. I've already told Taylor that things need to change. That his parents can't run our lives. That I need to rebuild my relationship with you, and if they have a problem with that, that's their issue, not mine." "How did Taylor react?" "He agreed. He said he's been uncomfortable with how his parents have been acting. He said he supports whatever I need to do to make things right with you. Third, you need to understand something. I'm not rich. I'm never going to be rich. I live in a small apartment. I wear simple clothes. I work with my hands. And if you're going to have me in your life, you need to accept me as I am. Not be ashamed of me. Not try to hide me. Accept me. I'm not ashamed of you. I was never really ashamed of you, Mom. I was just confused, pressured. I let Patricia and James make me feel like you weren't good enough, but they were wrong. You're better than all of them. You're more genuine, more loving, more real than anyone in that wealthy world. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be your daughter. I hope that's true. Because, Brielle, if we're going to rebuild our relationship, it has to be based on honesty. You have to be honest about who you are and where you come from, about the sacrifices I made for you, about the fact that we didn't have money but we had love. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. I will do that. We sat together for a while, both of us crying, both of us beginning to heal. Finally, Brielle asked, Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Would you be willing to come to a family meeting? With me, Taylor, and his parents? The therapist here thinks it would be good for everyone to talk through what happened, to address the issues. And I want you there. I want you to hear Patricia and James apologize to you. Do they want to apologize? James does. Patricia is struggling, but she knows she needs to. Mom, please, will you come? Will you give us all a chance to try to make this right? I thought about it. Part of me didn't want to face Patricia and James again, didn't want to relive the pain they'd caused. But another part of me knew this was necessary, for Brielle's healing, for my own healing, for any chance of moving forward. Okay, I said. I'll come to the family meeting. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for giving me another chance. I promise I won't waste it. As I left the facility that day, I felt exhausted but also oddly hopeful. My daughter had hurt me terribly, but she was taking responsibility. She was trying to change. She was fighting to make things right. And that was a start. The family meeting was scheduled for 3 days later, and I had no idea what would happen when all of us were in the same room together. But I was about to find out. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The family meeting was held in a conference room at Pinewood Mental Health Center. When I arrived, Brielle was already there with Dr. Chen. She looked better than she had 3 days ago, still fragile, but more present. Mom, she said, standing up to hug me, thank you for coming. Of course, honey. A few minutes later, Taylor arrived. He looked tired and stressed. When he saw me, he walked over immediately. Regina, I owe you an apology. I should have stood up for you. I should have insisted you be at the wedding. I'm sorry I didn't. Thank you for saying that, Taylor. I mean it. What my parents did was wrong, and I was wrong for going along with it. Then Patricia and James Morrison arrived. Patricia looked uncomfortable and defensive. James looked remorseful. We all sat down around the table. Dr. Chen explained the purpose of the meeting. We're here today to address what happened before and during Brielle and Taylor's wedding. Specifically, the decision to exclude Regina from the event and the impact that decision had on everyone involved. This is a safe space to express feelings, take accountability, and hopefully move toward healing. Who would like to start? James raised his hand slightly. I'll start. Regina, I've already apologized to you privately, but I want to do it again in front of everyone. What Patricia and I did, excluding you, bribing you, threatening you, it was wrong. Completely wrong. We let our concern with status and appearances override basic human decency, and I'm deeply sorry. Thank you, James. Dr. Chen looked at Patricia. Patricia, would you like to add anything? Patricia shifted uncomfortably. I suppose I should apologize as well. You suppose, Brielle said, her voice sharp. Patricia, you told my mother she'd be disruptive at my wedding. You offered to pay her to stay away. You threatened to have security remove her. And now you suppose you should apologize. Brielle, I understand you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm devastated. Patricia, I trusted you. I let you plan my wedding. I let you convince me that excluding my mother was the right thing to do. And you destroyed the most important relationship in my life. I was trying to help. Help? How was excluding my mother helping? How was making me ashamed of where I came from helping? How was teaching me to value wealth over love helping? Patricia's voice rose defensively. I was helping you fit into our world. I was making sure your wedding reflected the standards our family maintains. I was protecting our reputation. Your reputation? Patricia, your reputation is built on judging people by their bank accounts instead of their character. That's not a reputation worth protecting. Brielle, that's unfair. Is it? Tell me honestly. Would you have excluded my mother if she was wealthy? If she drove a luxury car and wore designer clothes and belonged to country clubs? Patricia didn't answer. That's what I thought. You excluded her because she's poor, because she didn't meet your arbitrary standards, and you convinced me to go along with it. Dr. Chen intervened. Let's take a breath. Patricia, I hear you feeling defensive, but I want to challenge you on something. Can you see how excluding Regina, regardless of your intentions, caused harm? Patricia looked down at her hands. I can see that Brielle is upset, and that Regina felt hurt, but I don't think I did anything wrong. I was making sure the wedding reflected our family's values. Your family's values include excluding people who work hard and sacrifice for their children, I asked quietly. Patricia looked at me. It's not personal, Regina. It's just that you don't understand our world. You don't know how to behave in high society settings. You would have been uncomfortable, and you would have made others uncomfortable. I raised a daughter who became a successful artist. I worked as a nurse for 47 years, helping save lives. I paid for Brielle's art school education with money I earned through exhausting labor. How exactly does that make me incapable of behaving appropriately at a wedding? It's not about capability. It's about fit. You simply don't fit into our world. Your world isn't a world I want to fit into. Not if it requires excluding hardworking people who love their children. See, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Conflict, drama, you making us look bad. I'm not making you look bad. You're doing that yourself. Patricia, I sat quietly at home while my daughter got married without me. I didn't crash the wedding. I didn't cause a scene. I stayed away like you demanded. The only reason your world knows what you did is because other people like Margaret Chen, were horrified by your behavior and called you out on it. Margaret Chen is a troublemaker who should mind her own business. Margaret Chen is a decent human being who recognized cruelty when she saw it, and she wasn't willing to stay silent about it. Taylor spoke up. Mom, you need to stop defending what you did. It was wrong. Can't you just admit that? I don't think I did anything wrong. I was protecting our family. By destroying mine, Brielle said, her voice breaking. Patricia, I tried to kill myself 3 days ago. Do you understand that? I took pills because I couldn't live with what I'd done to my mother. Because your values that prioritize wealth and status over love and loyalty, made me into someone I hated. Is that what you wanted? Patricia went pale. Of course not. Brielle, I never wanted you to hurt yourself. But you did want me to exclude my mother. You did want me to prioritize your comfort over her presence. You did want me to be ashamed of where I came from. And when I did all those things, when I became the person you wanted me to be, I couldn't live with myself. So tell me, Patricia, was it worth it? Was maintaining your reputation worth driving your daughter-in-law to a suicide attempt? Patricia started crying. No, it wasn't worth it. Nothing is worth that. Then admit you were wrong. Take responsibility for what you did. Patricia looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Regina, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for excluding you, for judging you, for treating you like you weren't good enough. You are good enough. You're better than good enough. You raised an incredible daughter, and I had no right to make you feel less than. It wasn't a perfect apology. I could tell Patricia still believed, on some level, that she'd been right to be concerned about fit and standards. But it was a start. Thank you for apologizing, Patricia. Dr. Chen looked at Brielle. How are you feeling right now? Better. Hearing Patricia apologize helps. but I also need to take responsibility for my own choices. Mom, I want to say something to you in front of everyone. Okay. I let Patricia and James convince me that you weren't good enough. But the truth is, I was the one who wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to stand up for you. I wasn't strong enough to resist the pressure to fit in. I wasn't brave enough to choose you over their approval, and I'm ashamed of that. Brielle, let me finish. Mom, you raised me to value integrity, to stand up for what's right, to be loyal to the people who love me, and I failed at all of that. I betrayed every value you taught me, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to be the daughter you deserve. You're already that daughter, honey. You made mistakes, but you're taking responsibility. You're trying to fix things. That's what matters. I want to do more than fix things. I want to make sure this never happens again, which is why I've made some decisions. What decisions? First, Taylor and I are moving. We're moving closer to you. We found a small house about 20 minutes from your apartment. It's not fancy, but it's ours. And it means I can see you regularly. Be part of your life the way I should have been all along. I was stunned. You're moving. Brielle, what about your art career, your gallery connections? I can make art anywhere. And honestly, the gallery scene here was toxic. It was all about money and status and who you knew. I want to create art that matters, art that means something. And I can do that better when I'm near you. Near the person who inspires all my best work. What about Taylor's job? Taylor spoke up. I'm transferring to our company's regional office near you. It's a smaller office, less prestigious, but it'll work. Regina, I want to be closer to you too. I want to get to know you properly. I want to learn from you. Learn from me. About real values, about sacrifice, about what actually matters in life. My parents raised me to value money and status. You raised Brielle to value integrity and hard work. Your way is better, and I want to understand it. I felt tears forming. Thank you, Taylor. That means a lot. Brielle continued. Second, I'm going back to therapy, long-term therapy, to figure out why I was so quick to abandon my values, why I let other people define my worth, why I was so desperate for approval from Patricia and James that I betrayed you. That's good, honey. I'm proud of you for doing that work. And third, I want to talk about the wedding, about fixing what happened. Fixing it how? The wedding already happened. I know, but Mom, I want to do something to honor you, to publicly acknowledge what you did for me, to make sure everyone knows that you're the most important person in my life. Brielle, you don't need to do anything public. Yes, I do. Everyone who was at that wedding knows you weren't there. They know I excluded you, and I want to make it right, so I'm planning something, an event, to celebrate you, to thank you, to show everyone who you are and what you mean to me. What kind of event? A mother's tribute. I'm inviting everyone who was at the wedding. I'm creating an art exhibition featuring pieces I've done over the years, all inspired by you. I'm giving a speech about who you are and what you've done for me. And I'm making sure everyone understands that my life, my success, my art, all of it exists because of you. Brielle, that's too much. It's not enough. Mom, you deserve to be honored at my wedding. Since I can't go back and fix that, I'm going to honor you now. Properly, publicly, the way I should have from the beginning. Patricia spoke up quietly. Brielle, if you're going to do this event, James and I would like to help. We'd like to sponsor it, cover all the costs, and we'd like to speak at it as well, to publicly apologize for what we did. Why would you do that? Because we need to take responsibility publicly, just like you're doing. Because people need to know we were wrong. And because maybe, if we acknowledge our mistakes publicly, it'll help repair some of the damage we've caused. Dr. Chen looked at me. Regina, how do you feel about all of this? Overwhelmed, grateful, still healing, but hopeful. That's a good place to be. Let me ask you something. Do you think you'll be able to forgive Brielle completely? To move past what happened? I think so. It'll take time. But yes, I believe we can rebuild our relationship. And Patricia and James, can you forgive them? I looked at Patricia and James. They'd hurt me terribly. They'd judged me, excluded me, and tried to erase me from my daughter's life. But they were also trying to make amends, taking responsibility, changing their behavior. I can forgive them eventually. I'm not there yet, but I can see a path to forgiveness. That's all anyone can ask for. The meeting continued for another hour. We talked about boundaries, about expectations, about how to move forward in a way that honored everyone's needs while prioritizing honesty and respect. By the end, I felt exhausted but also lighter, like a weight had been lifted. As we were leaving, Brielle pulled me aside. "Mom, there's one more thing I want to give you." She handed me a small wrapped box. "Open it." Inside was a beautiful necklace, a simple silver pendant with an engraving. "To the woman who gave me everything, with love and gratitude, Brielle." "It's beautiful, honey. I want you to wear it at the Mother's Tribute. I want everyone to see it, to know how much you mean to me." "I'll wear it, I promise." 6 weeks later, the Mother's Tribute took place at an art gallery in the city where Brielle used to live. The same 150 guests who'd attended the wedding were invited. Most of them came, curious about what this event was about. I wore a simple but elegant dress, one I'd made myself, and the necklace Brielle had given me. When I arrived, the gallery was filled with Brielle's artwork. Paintings, sketches, mixed media pieces, and every single one was inspired by me, by our life together, by the sacrifices I'd made. One painting showed a woman in scrubs, exhausted but determined, walking home from a night shift as the sun rose. The title, Strength. Another showed a mother and daughter in a small apartment, the mother sewing while the daughter did homework at a second-hand table. The title, Home. Another showed hands, worn, calloused, but gentle, holding a paintbrush. The title, These Hands Built My Dreams. I walked through the gallery crying, seeing my life through my daughter's eyes, seeing how she'd captured the love, the sacrifice, the determination that had defined our relationship. Then Brielle stepped onto a small stage at the front of the gallery. "Thank you all for coming tonight. 6 weeks ago, many of you attended my wedding. It was a beautiful event. Expensive flowers, designer dress, gourmet food, everything looked perfect. But it wasn't perfect, because the most important person in my life wasn't there. My mother, Regina Hayes, was excluded from my wedding, and I allowed that to happen." The crowd was silent, listening intently. "I allowed it because I was weak, because I wanted to fit into a world of wealth and status, because I let other people convince me that my mother, a retired nurse who worked night shifts for years to give me opportunities, wasn't appropriate for that world. I was wrong, completely, utterly wrong. My mother is the most appropriate person for any world. She's the embodiment of real values, hard work, sacrifice, unconditional love, integrity. And I'm ashamed that I ever let anyone make me believe otherwise. Tonight isn't about my wedding. Tonight is about honoring the woman who made everything in my life possible. The woman who raised me alone after my father died. The woman who worked herself to exhaustion so I could take dance lessons and attend art school. The woman who never complained, never gave up, never stopped believing in me. Mom, can you come up here? I walked onto the stage, my heart pounding. Brielle took my hands. Mom, I'm sorry I excluded you from my wedding. I'm sorry I chose appearances over you. I'm sorry I ever made you feel like you weren't enough. You're more than enough. You're everything. And I want everyone here to know that. The crowd applauded. Then Patricia and James stepped onto the stage. Patricia spoke first. I owe Regina an apology as well. I was the one who pushed for her exclusion. I judged her based on wealth and status rather than character. And I was wrong. Regina, you're a remarkable woman. You raised an incredible daughter, and you deserve to be honored at that wedding. I'm sorry you weren't. James added, Patricia and I come from a world where money often matters more than it should, where appearances are prioritized over substance. But meeting Regina, learning her story, seeing the woman she is, it's challenged us to rethink our values. Regina, thank you for that, and we're sorry for the pain we caused you. Then Taylor spoke. Regina, I want to thank you. Thank you for raising the woman I love. Thank you for instilling in her the values that make her who she is. And thank you for giving me a second chance after I failed to stand up for you. I promise to do better, to honor you, to make sure Brielle never has to choose between her family and mine because you're part of our family now." Brielle turned to face the crowd again. "I know an event like this can't undo what happened. I can't go back and have my mother at my wedding, but I can move forward differently. I can make sure that from now on, my mother is honored, respected, and included in every important moment of my life. So tonight, I want to make a public promise in front of all of you. Mom, I promise to never again be ashamed of where I came from. I promise to stand up for you, defend you, and make sure you're treated with the respect you deserve. I promise to teach my children, when I have them, about their grandmother's strength and sacrifice. And I promise to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the love you've given me." She turned to me, crying, "I love you, Mom, and I'm so sorry for what I did. But I'm grateful you're giving me another chance. I won't waste it." I hugged her tightly, both of us crying. "I love you too, baby, and I'm proud of you for doing this, for taking responsibility, for changing." The crowd gave us a standing ovation. People came up afterward to talk to me, to apologize if they'd been part of the problem, to express their admiration. Margaret Chen found me. "Regina, I'm so glad things are working out. You deserve this recognition. Thank you for everything you did, for confronting Patricia at the reception, for sending me that video, for being honest when others weren't. Someone needed to stand up for you. I'm just glad I could help." By the end of the evening, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. My relationship with my daughter was healing. The people who'd hurt me were taking responsibility, and I was finally being honored the way I should have been from the beginning. 2 months later, Brielle and Taylor moved into their new house 20 minutes from my apartment. I helped them unpack, and Brielle insisted I have my own room in their house. "I want you to feel like this is your home too, Mom. I want you here often." "Thank you, honey." Over the following months, our relationship continued to heal. We had dinner together twice a week. We talked on the phone daily. Brielle included me in everything: decorating decisions, career choices, family planning. And when Brielle got pregnant a year later, the first person she told was me. "Mom, you're going to be a grandmother, and I want you involved in everything. Doctor's appointments, baby shopping, delivery room, all of it. I'm not making the same mistakes again." "I'm so happy, sweetheart. You're going to be an amazing mother." I learned from the best. When Brielle's daughter, my granddaughter Emma, was born, I was in the delivery room holding Brielle's hand. And when it was time to introduce Emma to family, I was the first person to hold her after Brielle and Taylor. "Mom, I want Emma to know her grandmother," Brielle said, watching me hold the baby. "I want her to hear stories about your strength and sacrifice. I want her to understand that real wealth isn't money, it's love and family and integrity. And I want her to be proud of where she comes from. She'll know all of that, I promise." 5 years after the wedding that happened without me, Brielle hosted a dinner at her house. Me, Taylor, Patricia, James, and little Emma. During dinner, Emma looked at a photo on the wall, one from the mother's tribute showing Brielle and me on stage together. "Grandma, why are you and Mommy crying in this picture?" Brielle and I exchanged glances. "That's a long story, sweetie," Brielle said. "Can you tell me?" "When you're older, but I'll tell you this much. That picture is from a very special night. A night when Mommy apologized for a big mistake she made, and Grandma forgave her. It's a reminder that even when we hurt the people we love, we can make things right if we're willing to take responsibility and change." "Did you hurt Grandma?" "I did, very much, but she forgave me, and now we're closer than ever." Emma looked at me. "Grandma, do you still remember when Mommy hurt you?" "I remember, but I also remember that she fixed it, and that's what I choose to focus on." Later that evening, after Emma was in bed, Brielle and I sat on her porch together. "Mom, do you ever think about the wedding? About not being there?" "Sometimes. It still hurts when I think about it, but it hurts less than it used to. And honestly, what happened after the healing, the growth, the rebuilding, that's what I focus on now. I think about it all the time. Every time I see a wedding, I think about how I excluded you from mine, and I feel regret, but I also feel gratitude. Gratitude. That you forgave me, that you gave me another chance, that you didn't give up on me even when I gave you every reason to. Mom, some people don't get second chances. I'm grateful I did. You're my daughter. You'll always get second chances with me. I won't need them. I learned my lesson. I'll never prioritize appearances over you again. I'll never let anyone make me feel ashamed of where I came from. And I'll never forget that real values, the values you taught me, matter more than wealth or status. The wedding went on without me. And when my name was mentioned during the ceremony, it exposed a painful truth to 150 guests. But that painful truth led to accountability, to change, to healing, and ultimately, to something better than what we'd had before. My daughter had excluded me from the most important day of her life, but she'd learned from that mistake. She'd taken responsibility. She'd changed her values and her priorities. And now, 5 years later, I wasn't just present in her life, I was central to it, honored, valued, loved. The wedding went on without me, but the life that came after, the real, honest, meaningful life we built together, that included me completely. And that was worth more than any perfect wedding day could ever be. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.